welcome to the Shaun Newman podcast. Today I have Brad Cruikshank in studios with me. He's a proud husband, father of 4 boys, and as I was just saying off air, I'd love to start listing off all of his accomplishments in hockey, but he's been everywhere, so I think I'm just going to let him do the talking for the most part and see where it leads us. I guess, why don't we go back? You're originally from Kelowna. Now we're sitting in Lloydminster for those people who are listening everywhere right now. We're in the beautiful, lovely, it's at least sun is shining today and the snow's almost gone, but you're originally from Kelowna, so how about we go back? You must miss the mountains, I assume, now.
Yeah, I loved Kelowna, and I still do. We try and get out there as much as we can, but it's one of the most beautiful places in Canada, I'm sure.
If not the world.
If not the world.
Yeah.
It is pretty sweet, and I was lucky enough to grow up there, man. It was a good place to grow up and be a kid, for sure.
And so, does your family still live back there, Shanker?
My dad's there with my stepmom, and I got a couple stepbrothers there. But other than that, no, my family's kind of spread throughout BC a little bit.
Yeah.
Ocean Falls, my mom and stepdad. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
On the way up to Alaska, pretty much Prince Rupert, I guess. It's on the mainland, but it's kind of in between Prince Rupert and Vancouver Island. They own they had a fishing charter, a little camp out of there, and they've been there for quite some time. But it's beautiful out there too.
Yeah. So I was just at my a kid's birthday party. You can imagine 15 little kids running around screaming, they're having a grand old time, and then the dads huddled together, and we got talking about our kids playing hockey and when they're going to start playing hockey. So going back to like your career in hockey is quite impressive. Do you remember when you started playing, and was you in a little community, or was the rink open all the time, that kind of thing? Like, do you remember how you got your start, or was it a later start?
It was probably about 3 or 4, I think, is when I started skating on the ponds. I remember we used to live on an acreage just kind of on the edge of Kelowna.
Yeah.
Which is now kind of in the middle of it.
Middle of it, yeah. It expanded,
Yeah, it's kind of strange. But I grew up on acreage for the first 4 years until I was 4 anyways. And so I remember skating on the ponds there before we moved right into the city. And then I played my minor hockey, in Kelowna until Pee-wee anyways, until I left. And they're a little bigger town, so we didn't get to wheel into the rink like you would in Edam or Marwayne or whatever whenever you want.
Well, I was thinking Dad used to take us in Hillmont. We used to go flood the ice with him, and while he was flooding by hand, we'd skate the ice, right? And so we were always just on the rink. So I was just curious if you remember doing anything, maybe not to that extent, but if you were just on the ice all the time, or...
Yeah, no, I wish it had been like that. Like, I see all these small towns, and they're pretty lucky to have that, to be honest. And we definitely didn't have it in Kelowna, but we were on the ice all the time. And back then, it was freezing in the winters. Like, the lakes would still freeze, the ponds. Nowadays, I don't think they can... I don't think they skate on the ponds or outdoor rinks there very much at all, right? Unless they get a really cold winter. But we used to skate on Okanagan Lake.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like right out by the bridge, right almost in the middle of the lake. And you wouldn't get that
who needs an open rink when you got water everywhere?
Yeah.
Or ice everywhere, I should say.
Yeah, no, it was an unreal place to grow up. And the hockey was always good. I remember I was just trying to refresh my memory the other day with my oldest son. We were talking about how it worked. And when you get to, or back then, right from Adam... They had Adam AAA teams out there. So if you can make it, you Adam AAA, Pee-wee AAA. So the hockey was good. Like, I was going back over some of the names I played against when I was a kid, just from old like tournament programs stuff, and coming across names like Scott Gomez, and I just missed Paul Correa and guys like that. But just lots of guys that played in the show at some point, or played professional hockey, have come through that area. That Vernon, Kelowna, Kamloops area is just thick.
Hockey hotbed.
Yep, big time. And they're always good teams, good hockey. Excuse me. Kamloops is always a powerhouse, right? And that's right from the Blazers. They've always been had a good program.
Strong program. Yeah.
Yep, and those were our big rivals. But I was trying to remember the other day just what it was like. And yeah, we never had to do the long trips or anything like that, because out there everything's so close, right? Here we're constantly traveling for kids hockey at Adam and Pee Wee age. It's a lot different than when I was a kid. Yeah, it's a lot of
travel. You say Adam AAA, like in Lloyd we have Tier 1. Is that comparable or?
Yep. Yeah, but the Tier 1 teams here, I think you get at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 if there's enough kids, right?
Yeah.
There you would just make one team, so they have your one
you just
AAA
have one
team.
Top team.
Yeah, one top team. I'm not sure what the how the whole tiering went, if it was AA then A after that and then House League. I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. But yeah, I had a picture of an old jacket and it said right on the sleeve Adam AAA, and I just thought it was funny because it's not like that out here.
No,
now.
It's not at all. No.
But yeah, no, it was good hockey.
Yeah, and so then you move on to Calgary. And
Yep.
we were just talking a little bit of it off air. Like you win a Max Cup out there, which is, well, that's midget AAA for people who don't know. That's what, top 25 team. Well, I shouldn't say top, but 25 very, very good teams from all over the world come into Calgary and compete for the Max Cup, which is going, like, it's been around for a long time.
30, 40 years.
Yeah, and
long time.
So to win that is quite the feat. And maybe you want to just shed some light on that, and you're saying you went to junior and then came back. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so from Kelowna I actually moved to Quesnel for a year, played my first year Pee Wee there because my mom and dad kind of split up, and so yeah, I headed up there for a year, and it was a different place. Quesnel, BC. I don't even know if you're familiar with it at all.
You're looking at me. I see you.
It's right by Prince George, in between
Okay.
Prince George and Williams Lake. Different place. I only lasted there a year, and then I moved to Calgary. Played my minor Bantam, so it would have been Bantam minor AA.
Okay.
I think that's how they did it in Calgary at the time. And then I went straight from, instead of playing my second year of Bantam, my major Bantam year, I just went to junior A and ended
15.
up at 15. Yeah, which was, in hindsight now, I understand why the people around me, and I understand why we went that route, but in hindsight, looking back now, probably was a little quick, especially for where I was at maturity-wise, just at that point in my life. May have been a little too much, so the first 2 years of junior, I didn't play a ton, as a 15, 16-year-old, and that's valuable development time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Valuable. And, yeah, it was a bit of a struggle, and as much as I enjoyed it, it was tough. So I ended up coming back my 17-year-old year and finished that season, midget AAA. And then the following season, I think it was my last year of midget eligibility, I played that full season, and that was the year we won the Max.
So was it just going back to playing junior, and then was it your choice to go back to midget then? Were you just, or?
Yeah, mine and my family's. I was living with my aunt and uncle at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was all of our decisions, basically.
And I don't know the answer to this, so you probably do. When you leave a junior A team like that, can you just I just say, it ain't for me, I'm going to go play midget, and then just walk over to the midget team, and if they got room, they just slide you
More
on?
or less, yeah. If they have room and can accommodate, then yeah, and it worked out that they did for us, or for me, and it ended up being a great season. I ended up playing with two guys that had NCAA Division I scholarships later on after their junior, so played with two really skilled guys, and had lots of success that year. The Max tournament, we just tore that thing up, our line. I think we all finished above 25 points in that tournament.
And how many games do you play?
Yeah, like 8.
Yeah. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, Andrew Wong and Jay Hamill. Yeah, I haven't said those names in a long time, but man, that was a long time ago. 1996, I believe it was.
96,
yep. And we played another Calgary team in the final, which was cool. So the Saddle Dome was rocking. It was awesome. There was 10,000 people in there. At midget, like that's it's pretty
Screw
amazing.
that.
Yeah.
At midget, try at any age.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, you played some high-end hockey, but for most guys, they don't never get to see 1,000 people in the building. So for 10,000 to come out to a midget game, like that must have been...
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Wouldn't have been hard to get up for something like that.
No, it was not hard to get motivated for that one, that's for sure.
And then to win it, the party after must have been
It
enjoyable.
was a good time. It was a good time. I wish I was a couple of years older, but no, it was good. And yeah, it was an experience that I'll definitely never forget. And, a couple of years ago, coaching with the midget AAA team here, we were able to go back and made it to the finals, and we were playing the Calgary Flames, and it was 20 years ago to that day that
you'd won with the Calgary Flames, right? It was the Flames you played with, right?
Yeah, and there was a couple of my teammates that were on the coaching staff for them at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been a pretty cool...
it was a neat experience. I didn't expect to run into them, so it was kind of a bonus or whatever. And yeah, it was just it was a neat experience, and it was fun to go there and watch the kids we had at the time here with Lloyd go through it, and what a team that was, that 2000 group of kids, Ty Smith and all them. They were an unreal group. So it's too bad we didn't end up winning it, but we ended up losing, I think, 2-1 in the finals. But pretty neat experience. And the Max tournament is got to be one of the... Yeah, it is first class. You got teams from Europe, you got teams from the States, teams from all over the place, and I mean, it's invite only, so they are most of the top teams in midget.
Yeah, and that's something. Yeah, I never even got close to. I played our midget team won our league that year, but I don't even think, like you were talking, like you had Adam AAA, like all growing up in Lloyd, I think, until I was well done my minor hockey. Like all we had was AA. Now we played in the rural hockey league, right? The Fort Max, the Grand Prairies. You want to talk about travel? That was travel.
No kidding.
And there was a lot of good hockey players in there. But now that they got AAA here in Lloyd, like it's really changed the landscape. Because we used to, I talked on previous podcasts about like Clark MacArthur and those guys, and like him going and playing Strathcona in our Bantam year, right? Because Strathcona had AAA, so we all went there, and the next year I think we all went to Fort Saskatchewan for tryouts. Everybody tried getting to the next tier, but the next tier wasn't Lloyd. Now the cool thing is Lloyd has that, right? Like when they've had it for quite some time now, but
yeah,
anytime you get to keep local talent sitting here for everybody to watch, right? Like you talk Ty Smith, like I got to go watch him that year, and I remember thinking, because he would have been how old at the time? 15?
Yeah, 16 tops.
16 tops.
15,
and
16 that
he
year.
looked like an 18-year-old out there, right? Like he was big but smart and could really move, and it was impressive to watch him play. And anytime you can have your local kids stick around like that, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they're definitely like this area is rich with hockey too, man, and good hockey. Like there is a lot of good hockey players around here that come through this area that leave prematurely right before midget, whether it's to go to an academy or whatever, or join another midget AAA program. But there's definitely a lot of kids leaving Lloyd, and it's kind of unfortunate, but you can't blame them either, right? They've got their own journey to
go down.
Yeah, exactly. And parents just want the best for their kids, so I understand why it happens and why it goes down, but this area should be able to field a competitive midget AAA team every year just off the local kids here. I think they still, they're allowed to grab from around the surrounding area, and we had a few kids that year, Ashton Oaks and a few other kids from the Marwayne area, Franklin, Zane Franklin. But for the most part, that was a pretty local team.
Yeah. Wow, heck. Yeah, I consider Marwayne local, so
yeah, pretty
I'm a
much.
Helmond kid, right?
Yep.
And I grew up just outside of Lloyd, and that's the same kind of area you're pulling from, right? Like there's a lot of local talent just laying in the weeds for you, pretty much.
Yeah. No, it's that, and that's the best time that I tell these, and I was telling those kids that year lots, just slow down and exactly remember this, because A, it's going to go fast, and B, you ain't going to get to do it again.
Yeah. And C, most kids don't get to have a year like that where they get to experience things like that.
Winning in general in hockey it's hard. Like, it's winning a championship doesn't come any day at any level. It doesn't matter what level you play at. It's hard to do, and in the big picture, most people don't do it.
Yeah.
Most people that play hockey don't win a championship, right? And it's hard to win, man. It's hard to win. I played with guys that played for 10 to 15 years professionally that, never made it out of the first couple rounds of playoffs, let alone win a championship. So
that's gotta be frustrating. I went through a long lull in my career where we were a bad hockey team, where we just didn't win a whole lot, and it's tough to keep a positive mindset when you're doing that.
It's the way it goes for most. It is. I didn't win it took me, once I left junior and after the midget win, after the midget AAA.
Yeah.
Man, it must have been almost 12, 15 years before I won again.
Yeah.
After that midget AAA win.
Go so long, you wonder if you're ever going to get back there.
Yeah, it just shows how hard it is. Championships don't come. They don't come every day. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to it then. Talk about maybe. I know we were talking. You go back. You play your midget. You win a Max Cup, and then the year after that, you go back to playing Junior A. Correct?
Yep. Yeah, I ended up going back to junior and finishing my last couple of years. It might have even been 3 years. Yeah, I think it was 3 years. My 19 overage year. Had some success, but not as a team. We never won anything being with the Royals. I think we got out of the first round of the playoffs once. Even though we had good teams and we had some future NHLers, but the AJ was pretty competitive back then.
At some point you tried out for the Dub, didn't you?
Yeah, played a little bit. That was right in the middle of my before I came back to midget.
Yeah. Before you came back to midget.
Yeah.
So you went from Junior A and then went up to the Dub for a little bit and then came back to midget.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I took the long road. Yeah, it is a tough go. And the Dub's not for everyone. And again, did I have the skill and toughness to play in that league? Absolutely. But at that stage of my life, I had a lot going on, and I wasn't always concentrated on hockey first and foremost. And if you're going to play in the Western League, you got to be ready to bring your A game. You can't be freezing up in the middle of games, and you can't afford to take a night off because it is that competitive trying to make those teams, and there's so many good players out there, so I played a few games with the Hitmen, and then after the Max, my rights were moved to Edmonton, I believe. So I played a couple games that at the end of that Max.
Was that the Ice?
Year. Yeah, Edmonton Ice.
Yeah,
because
they were the Ice, and then they left, and now they're back as the Oil Kings.
Yeah. So played a little bit there, and then Lethbridge at the start of the next season, and then ended up going back to Junior A after being in Lethbridge for a couple months. And then, just finished out my junior in Calgary. And
you were saying more of a comfortable fit. Like, when you talk about the Dub, was it the stress of, like, how much of a grind plus all the talent chasing you to get in those lineups? Like, and you noticed there was a noticeable difference, I guess what I'm trying to get at, when you played Junior A, just in the talent pool maybe versus...
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely more competitive, tougher. Everything about it was tougher. The coaches were tougher. We had, what's his name? Dennis Maxwell.
Okay.
I think it's Dennis Maxwell. He coached the Hurricanes for a long time back in the 90s, and he was a big, tough, old school. I think he played in the show. I think he was a bit of a tough guy or whatever, but he was hard to play for, and that's just what it was like. Everything was back then. It was old school, right? They didn't care about your feelings or anything. Not on that side of things. They just wanted you to come out and play hockey, and it was tough. It was stressful, and it just at the point in I was at in my life, I just wasn't mentally strong enough, I guess, to cope with it.
Yeah, that's I can attest. I wasn't. If you've been listening to this, you've heard me talk many a time about being told that I was just talking to Harlan Lessick on the last one about going to Kindersley and them telling me I was 4 inches too short, and if I was 4 inches taller, I'd be on the team. And it almost broke me to the point where I was like, I don't even know if I want to play hockey anymore.
Right.
Well, you can tell where my mental toughness was at the time, right? Like, you got to be able to take things on the chin and keep on moving is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's not every kid. Not every kid, at especially a young age like that, can handle some of the things that are said and thrown at them.
Yep, and hockey's still like that to a certain degree, right? It's a tough sport.
Yeah.
I mean, any sport is tough. Hockey it's tough mentally and physically, right? It's emotionally too. There's a lot to it.
What do you think of them moving hitting further away from the young kids? Because I think they're at Bantam now, right?
Yeah.
And they've moved it all the way to Bantam. I've heard rumors, and I don't know, they're just rumors, but I've heard them talking about pushing it just to the elite teams. So now if you only play AAA, you're in hitting, and anything below that, or maybe AA below that, now you get no hitting. And talking about kids leaving the sport because essentially the body contact pushes them away from it. It's too rough of a game, that kind of thing. And so participation is down, and I'm quoting that. And so do you think there's a benefit to the game moving away from hitting, or do you think it should be the opposite way? I've heard the argument where kids at a younger age should get to just feel a little bit of a bump.
It's definitely a sticky topic, right? It's tough, and it's really, I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one to answer. Maybe, keeping hitting in at the Pee-wee level wouldn't be such a bad idea, maybe for the elite level of Pee-wee. Just kind of like you're saying with Bantam. And honestly, I'm totally fine with Bantam going to no contact for house league or city league, right? And that, why not? Like,
actually, I agree, right?
Yeah.
What's the point of having it down? Let the kids learn and get the fundamentals under them before you add in another roadblock of some kid trying to knock your block off.
There's such a size difference between a lot of the kids now too, right? So, and there always was, but now it just seems more so than ever. There just seems to be a lot more big kids.
I definitely wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid, obviously.
Yeah.
Heck, neither were you, because what are you, 5'9"?
Yeah, 5'10", yeah.
5'10", right? Like you're
in
my standards, you're big, but by the NHL hockey standards, you're a small guy.
Yeah, and it's tough sport for a small guy, but I mean, once you learn your edge work and your body positioning and how to wiggle out of hits and be prepared for them, that's the biggest thing, is knowing how to take a hit and be prepared for it and being able to see it out of the corner of your eye in advance. And but yeah, I'm good with hitting, staying in at Pee-wee in the elite levels, and I'm also good with it coming out at certain levels too, right?
Yeah, whatever level that is.
Yeah, and maybe that is a thing. I would not be surprised to see open ice hitting gone from hockey altogether at some point in the next decade or two.
Well, the way it's moving, it's coming quick, right?
There's lots of guys pushing for it behind the scenes, and you wouldn't believe how many of those guys are ex-NHL tough guys.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to quote anyone on air, but
why are they pushing so hard for it, do you think?
I don't know. Maybe because they have money tied up in that lawsuit against the NHL, or they're expecting. I don't know. No, I don't know. It's funny that it's those guys, right? And I don't see that. Hitting all together is the culprit. I think it has a lot to do with the equipment. Shoulder pads, like they're massive nowadays, right? And seems to be the most common reason for concussion is shoulder to jaw.
Yeah.
and those massive shoulder pads.
And the game you talked, it's getting a little bigger. It seems like it's getting faster, right? I was just talking to Harland about rule changes they've implemented. Well, it was my midget year where they took out the red line. Up until that point, you can do the 2 ice pass. No kid even remembers that now, right? Like, that's so far gone. But that used to slow the game up because now you can't, now you can make that pass. You can make the far blue line pass. You can do that chip play and then chase down the D-man. And, well, I'm a D-man and I'm a small D-man. I know all about that, right? Like, that's what guys are trying to do. But, it's interesting that behind the scenes, that's where it's getting pushed by. I always just grew up playing with hitting and enjoying the hitting part of it, right?
Yep.
I'm a small guy and I like to hit. I just got to go about it a different way than most. So
right. And even, to be honest, when I was in Pee Wee in BC, there was no hitting. Even back then. When we came to Calgary for a Pee Wee tournament, my second year of Pee Wee, there was hitting in Calgary.
Right, and you never had hitting before?
Not in BC, yep.
Really?
In BC, Pee Wee was already a non-contact when I was playing, yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we came to Calgary for a tournament.
And had to get readjusted.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome, though. We loved it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Bunch of Pee Wee kids coming in, having never been able to hit before.
That's funny that they would do it in a province, but not... kind of mandate or take the data from it and then go, you know what, it actually proved well in BC. We should mandate it across everywhere,
right?
And see, maybe they have been doing that.
Maybe they did that.
Yeah,
I don't know, because hitting was pulled out of Alberta in Pee Wee, after BC for sure. So maybe they, I don't know, maybe they realized it worked or
gonna have to get somebody from Hockey Canada on the phone.
Yeah, track them down. Track them down.
Well, I wanted to bug you too. We talked about Max Cup, and then the Viking Cup. Because I don't even. Maybe you could tell the folks what the Viking Cup is. Because I'm pretty sure the Viking Cup is no more.
Yeah. The Viking Cup is dissolved now. It's gone. I think they stopped. Somewhere around 2006.
Yeah, I think it was 2006.
Yeah.
And it used to be hosted in Camrose.
Correct.
Right, and it used to be the top junior age kids. You played in it.
They would make a all-star team from the Alberta Junior Hockey League, BC Junior Hockey League, Manitoba, SJ, and then there was a Czech Republic was there.
Yeah.
And then the under-18 US team, who we ultimately ended up losing.
Holy crap, right?
Yeah, they were good. And I bet you a lot of those guys off that roster, the under the U18 American team.
Well, I didn't look at the Americans. I was just looking across seas who came over because I was kind of curious.
Yep.
And like Hasek played in it.
Yep.
Peter Klima for old Oiler fans, right? Ole Jokinen, Tuukka Rask, Henrik Lundqvist, right? So there was some giant names go through that thing.
Absolutely, yeah. It was probably one of the best tournaments I've ever played in. It was fun. It was great. And we had a powerhouse team. We were good. We ended up beating the U.S. in the round robin in overtime and going 6-0 into the final. So we were pumped.
Riding a high.
We were ready, riding a high. And then we ended up losing, I think, 4-3 to the U.S.
To the U.S.
You
remember who played on that AJ team with you?
Would have been Barnes. Would have been
Stu Barnes?
Well, Ryan Barnes. Played for Lloyd at the time, the Blazers.
Okay.
He was my roommate, actually.
Yeah. What was the format of that? Because it was over like a 3-week period, wasn't it? 2-week period?
No, just 1 week.
Oh, it was 1 week.
Yeah.
Oh, I must have read that wrong. I could have swore it said longer. So it was just 1 week. So they
the
throw
year
you up
we were there, yeah.
They throw you up in a hotel, and then that's...
No, we billeted with Camrose. The AJ... Yeah, I'm not sure what the other teams did, but our team, we billeted with people right in the Camrose community.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great experience. We had awesome billets, and as I'm sure everybody did, but... Yeah, it was a fantastic experience. Gord Thibodeau was one of our coaches. Jeff Christensen, who ended up coaching, he was the head coach of Camrose at the time. Ended up coaching in the head coach of Kelowna Rockets, and now he's in the American League. He might even be in the NHL now. Gary Van Haraway, I think, was a part of it. Like we had awesome coaches and just a great team, great experience. The community was awesome. Camrose is a great place. The people there were awesome, and it was a good tournament, man. That was a lot of fun.
And we didn't win it. Yeah, no kidding. But I mean, you're going against an entire country's under-18 team, right?
That's why it was so impressive, right? Like, we had 20-year-olds, right? Like, I was a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
But you're drawing from your entire country. Like, that was your U18 development program. That was the best team they could put together, and so it was pretty impressive that we could even stay with them.
Honestly, it's too bad that isn't still going, right? Like, that's an impressive feat to put a tournament on like that and have it in Camrose, Alberta.
Yep.
Right? Like, that's
it was awesome, and awesome for the scouts. What an easy place. There's a lot of scouts in this area, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of scouts between
There's a
Edmonton
lot of
and
hockey
Calgary
in this freaking area.
Yeah, and that place was just it was a lot of guys moved on from that tournament, that's for sure.
Now, you go back to the Royals, right? You're playing junior for the Royals at the time.
Yep.
And you talk about losing in the first round, and then the day after you lose in the first round, you get a phone call and you head south.
Yeah, I honestly had never really even heard of the East Coast League or Central Hockey League or West Coast Hockey League. I didn't know anything about those minor leagues. All I knew was NHL and American League. And 2 days after, not even, the next day after we lost out to Camrose, and it's right at the end of February, I got a call from a guy named Todd Gordon. He was the head coach of the Toledo Storm in the East Coast League, and I was like, where the heck is this? Okay, Ohio, sure, right on. Didn't even need a passport. That was in 2000.
Yeah.
I think 99 or 2000.
Had your birth certificate and away you went.
Didn't even need that. Just needed my driver's license. Went to the airport.
Bullshit, really?
Yep, that's it.
Holy crap, how times have changed.
Yep. I think, that's it. Driver's license and a bag of clothes and a hockey bag. Jumped on an airplane and landed in Detroit at like 2 p.m. The goalie, who was under contract at the time with Tampa, he was hurt. He picked me up at the airport. He's smoking cigarettes the whole way back to the to the rink. We're driving straight to the rink because there's a game that night, and I was barely gonna make it there in time for warm up. So I had no idea what to step in, what is going on, or what the rink looks like. Am I even playing tonight? And
well, you don't have an iPhone at this point, so you
definitely don't have an iPhone.
You can't be sitting there in the passenger seat googling everything, going,
no.
"Oh, this is who we're playing," and "Oh, that's who they got," and whatever. Like, you're going there blind.
Yeah, it was pretty intimidating. I'm not gonna lie, especially when he picked me up and he's smoking darts, and it's just I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't expecting that, but what a great experience that was, though. First game, old rink. Just a little, 5,000 seat rink, stuffed to the rafters. Even though Toledo was out of the playoffs at that point, but we were playing Peoria Rivermen. They were huge, massive team. We had to walk through the concourse in our home rink in Toledo there. So I go there, get ready for warm up, and it's the first time putting on a helmet without a visor, and they got warm up jerseys, and we walk through the concourse, and you walk out into the stands, and you literally walk through the stands down to the bench and then onto the ice. They have a tunnel for their team that comes out and everything, so the fans can't, and glass around their bench. But our bench was literally a chain behind us. No glass or anything. It was a chain, and the fans sitting right with you, right on the bench. Literally, it was unreal. Ended up scoring that game though, so that was pretty exciting.
That would have been a confidence booster.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I'm glad I did. I just tapped in a puck sitting on the goal line, but hey, whatever.
So did you have to sign a contract or?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you had.
Yeah, I think it was for $425 a week or whatever the minimum was at the time.
Hey, if you haven't listened to me and Harlan talk, I'll say it till the cows come home. You did way better than I ever did. My first and only contract was €150 a month, so $425 sounds pretty decent right now.
Yeah, no, hey, I was 21 years old and I was pretty excited. So
yeah,
living on my living with a guy from Ontario, Jeff White, I think his name was. We lived in some dingy little apartment. And
how long were you down there for?
Just 6 weeks.
6 weeks?
Yep. Finished off the season, did a couple golf tournaments. And then they were out of the playoffs before I even went down there.
Yeah.
I think how it originally got linked up is I had a guy that was out of Calgary that was a scout for Tampa, and he had watched me play for a long time, and he's the one that I think
that set
tipped them off. Yeah, and I ended up staying in their system with that coach. For the next 4 years, I think I played for Todd. So that all came out, just off of that one scout making a recommendation, and I ended up playing for that coach for the next 5 years.
Well, where do you go after there? So you go from Toledo?
Toledo, came home for the summer, and then went to with that coach. So that same coach from Toledo knew he was going somewhere for a year, and then to somewhere else after that, back in the Tampa Bay organization.
Yeah.
So I didn't re-sign in Toledo on his strict instructions. And I followed him to Fayetteville, North Carolina in the Central League, which was a really tough league.
Tough, like we're talking fighting?
Yeah.
Or are we talking
scrapping? Lots of scrap. And every team was like 4 to 8 guys deep.
Of guys you could just throw nuts.
Heavyweight division. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun, but it got old.
So I should preface, I assume most people who tune into this kind of know your background a little bit, right? And all the stuff that's been on Facebook in the last day since I put out that I was having you on, it was pretty crazy. Lots of guys sharing and commenting and whatever else. And I went down the rabbit hole of looking at your fights, right? And I mentioned earlier you're only 5'10", like you're not this giant of a guy. But if you go on YouTube and watch you fight heavyweight after heavyweight after heavyweight. I should have brought this up way back at the beginning. Like in midget through junior into the dub, now you're down in Toledo. Like, have you been fighting this entire time?
Yeah, not so much like a midget, and obviously there's not a ton of fighting in midget, right? But I was definitely a bit of a hothead in midget, but I was producing. I put up some pretty decent numbers, and even in junior, I scored 40 goals the last year and had 20 fights or whatever, right? The year before, I think I fought about 25 times and had roughly 20 goals. So I'd been doing it, since junior. And you know what? I kind of think I did it to myself, right? Once you
get a name for yourself.
Yeah, it's hard. Like I don't know if I want to use the word pigeonholed, but once you get in that role and people expect that of you, or that's tied to your name, it is extremely hard to shake. At least it was back then. It was.
Yeah. Well, it isn't the same game anymore.
No, it's totally different now.
You go to a junior game, and I know there's guys who still like to fight, but like, how many fights do you even see, right? At a junior A game, right? Or higher. I mean, you still see it, it's still there a little bit, but that used to be just a part of it, right? You used to go to a game and you expect to see 1 to 3 fights a game, right? It was just something. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so I could see how your name gets mixed up with. He likes to throw that, and so when they got a guy and they need to change the momentum and say, "Hey, go see if Shank wants to go around with you." All right, and then I know how most of us are on the ice. I shouldn't say most of us. My fighting career lasted about 3 games a year, as I had 5 or 6 in my illustrious junior A career. But I could see how a guy comes and then they're having a bad game. Well, let's go shake it up. Shank will throw him down with you for sure, right? And as a young guy, you're not going to back down because that's not what young guys do, right? And so away you go. And then, then 20 years go by and you're known for it.
Right. Yeah. It's almost a vicious cycle. As much as I loved doing it when I was younger, in my early days, it's a rush, man, when you're doing it in front of, anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 people. It's pretty exciting, or it's, can be a pretty good feeling. So that's kind of where that comes from. But it's hard to get out of, and it's hard to shake that role after you get stuck in it.
Did you have some good fans that were just going nuts when you go, or chanting your name? And
England's was like that quite a bit, right? You know
the
how
fans
it
are
is
pretty
over
interactive.
in Europe's different than everywhere else, right? They have that soccer mentality.
Yeah.
Standing up, waving flags, and
everybody's into it.
Some of the rinks you go into, they don't sit, right? Like we played in France and Rouen or whatever. Those people, I swear to God, they didn't sit the whole game. Like they just stand
and
4,000 people stand and waving flags, but it sounds like there's 100,000 people in that little rink, right? Yeah.
So you go to Fayetteville. And you mentioned that this is kind of where or maybe this was Jamie telling me, that where they kind of change your role into that guy who's willing to drop the minutes. I think I was looking at your hockey DB, and like you had a couple seasons there where you're 300 plus penalty minutes, that kind of thing. Like that's a load.
Yep. Then that's primarily what I did in Fayetteville for sure. It was. So a lot of scrapping.
So you said it's a tough league. So is that one fight a night then?
Well, you can have up to 3.
Did you ever have 3 in a night?
I don't know if I did that year. I would have had a couple for sure, but I've done it a couple times.
Is that just a little bit of just a little bit of hatred between two guys?
Yeah,
right? Like you get round one in and somebody knocks the other guy down. Well, we're gonna settle this right now.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely happens like that, or line brawls, and if you're the first guy fighting, you get to stay in the game, and it's a heated game, well, you're probably going to go again, right? We've had some good rivalries down there, especially playing in the coast, because you're playing teams in your division up to 12 times, and it's different from junior or midget or whatever, right? When you got grown men playing against each other 14 times in a year by the time playoffs are done, or 20 times in a year by the time, because we'd play the teams in our division in the coast 12 times.
Oh.
And that's not including exhibition games.
Yeah, that's a grind, man.
Yeah, or playoffs. And so by the 12th time you play that team, something's probably happened in between a few times, right?
You stubbed your toe on somebody and...
Right.
And uttered you're going to die the next game kind of thing.
Yep. And so, that role just kind of followed me for the first bit, especially when I was in the States. I don't know. I don't know how you would have got out of it at that time without looking like a coward.
Yeah.
And just stopping fighting altogether. But, I mean, before every game, you go into the dressing room when you get there 2 hours before, and they have the media package, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing you do is flip it open and see who's playing for their team that night, and who's a scratch and who's a not, and all their stats are in there and everything. So there's no getting away from it. Once you're in that role, every guy on every team knows who you are when you come into their building that night or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the same thing used to happen when I played in Dryden, right? We had Larry Wintoniak, who's an assistant coach here in Kinnersley.
Yep.
But at the time, he was coaching there, and he's been around the junior A leagues a lot, pretty much all his life. And he used to be very professional like that. Print us off their stats, their everything. So we had to read through it before each game, and it's no different, right? You'd look to see who was scratched, who was playing. And at that time, I was still using wood sticks, which I loved. As a small guy, I always got to use it in front of the net. I get harassed now because of how I like to use my stick on the ice. But back then, that was the only way I could keep the big guy away from me or away from the net, right? Was using that little thing, and a nice wood stick never breaks.
Nope. I know our kids are using wood shafts in lacrosse now.
Oh, really?
Same concept, though.
Yeah.
They're heavier and harder.
Yeah.
And they don't break. No, not even on a guy's arm.
No.
Yeah. No, it's it was a interesting time those years. It was tough. As much as I love doing it, it's a tough role to do, and it's grinding, like it mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
It's harder than anyone could ever imagine.
Who is maybe like I don't know, your most memorable fight, or the guy that you're just like, I don't want to do this. Like, this guy is a monster, or something along that lines. Because, I mean, I don't know how many fights you had in your career, but you had a lot.
Yeah, probably over, I don't know, somewhere. Well, with junior, the ones that maybe aren't on officially listed or whatever. I think I had over 100 fights on dropyourgloves.com or whatever it's called. I haven't checked it in a while, but I don't think the junior ones are on there. But all in all, it would have easily been over. I'm going low at 140, 150.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So
really.
Oh no, that's a crazy amount. I'm
Yeah,
talking.
it's
I had
ridiculous.
I probably count them on both hands, right? I probably had 10 to 12.
Yep.
I mean, but I was never a good fighter.
That's a good thing.
I guess so.
It's a tough role, man, and it's not for everybody, and it's not for guys that are probably my size.
Yeah. Well, I just saw there was a video showed of you fighting. How do you say his last name? Nadir.
Yep.
Nadir, and then I watched one the other day of McMorrow.
Yeah.
Like those two guys were
monsters.
Monsters.
Yep.
I don't know about McMurrow. I don't know if he played in the show. I don't think
a little bit.
Did he play a little cup of coffee?
Played in the American League for a long time.
Yeah, like he was big,
massive. Yeah.
And every time you got up, he just throw it. He never caught you. It didn't look like he caught you with anything, but he had so much like length, and every time he caught you with even a graze, there was so much weight behind it. It pushed you back to the ground.
Totally.
Like I can't imagine going, okay, I'm going to fight this big behemoth heavyweight, right? And then you fight Nadir, and I looked his stats up. He's from, I think, Nigeria.
Yep.
And he was 6'4" or 6'2" and 240 some pounds.
Yeah.
And like a monster. Right?
He played for the Rangers for a bit.
Yeah, he had 65 games in the show with, what did it say? I think 5 goals, 9 points, something like that.
Yeah.
Or 105. No, I'm going to look him up because
he was tough. I know that.
He was a big man. Like when he comes on the video screen, and if you haven't seen this fight, look him up, Nadir, NDUR versus Brad Cruikshank. You look that up, and he comes on the screen, and you're like, he's going to fight that guy?
Yeah, not much fun. I was 32 at the time.
Yeah, what was your wife saying in the stands?
Yeah, she probably didn't like that one too much. I kind of feel sorry for her at points having to watch some of the shit that happened, but hey, it's all part of it.
Well, I mean, it's just you get thrown in that role, and then you come up against the next team. I mean, it's kind of like a notch in your belt, though.
Yeah, I never really got to start playing hockey again until I did go to Europe. I just didn't know I was going to the toughest league in Europe. I should have been a little more aware, as the internet was fully fired up by then. But
Britain's the toughest league in Europe?
The UK league is tough, yeah. It's even now is starting to change a little bit, but it's still one of the last professional leagues that's fairly physical. McGrattan was just over there a year or two ago. Westgarth.
Yeah.
All those guys were playing over there. Guy from the Ice Guardians documentary.
Yeah.
All that being filmed is when they're doing him on ice is in Belfast in the Elite League in the UK.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, Rumen Nadir. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yep.
And is 6'2", weighs in at 244. So I can just imagine
probably 264 at the later end of his days.
He is from Nigeria, and in the NHL he played 69 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points, and had 137 penalty minutes. And I mean, that's just... And then he also played AHL for a lot. There's 70 games right there, right? Like, 2, 3, 4, 5 full seasons in AHL. He was a big boy when he got... By the time he got to you, were facing a weathered vet.
Yeah. 2 weathered vets. Just one a lot bigger and stronger. Yeah.
So let's talk about you go from Fayetteville, and then you go to Pensacol, I think, right?
Yep.
What better place to go?
Yeah, it was unreal, man.
Like for the listeners, if you don't know where Pensacola is, that's Florida. That's about as close to the coast as you can get. Actually, it's pretty much the coast.
It is.
You're almost in water.
Yep, Pensacola, Florida. We were on the Gulf of Mexico by noon every day after practice.
I don't think I ever told you this, but my roommate in Ontario, my junior roommate, he actually played for. Well, they were. When were they? When Ice Pilots when you played?
Yep.
And they were the Ice Flyers now, I believe.
Yep.
And he won with them. What was that? 2013, I think.
Yep.
And was Rookie of the Year with them his first year. I think he played 2 years with them.
Yep.
right? That was
Yes,
Jordan.
SPHL.
Yeah, SP
Yep.
Southern Pro. Yeah.
Yep.
Jordan Chong on
Oh, yeah,
Vancouver
okay.
over there. Yeah. Yeah.
Sick place. Lucky
Oh.
guy. Win a championship.
When he
in
signed
Pensacol.
there, he was sending me photos of their place. They had a condo, and I'm probably just reminding you of it. Condo's right on the beach.
Right on the Gulf of Mexico.
So why the heck did you ever leave there?
Yeah, I know. Well, there was a bit of a change at the helm going on. So the coach I'd played for in Toledo, Fayetteville, and then 3 years in Pensacola with him. The reason why I mostly left was just development. We were in the Tampa Bay system.
Pensacola was?
Pensacola was,
Yeah.
yep. They were their East Coast League affiliate, but at the time, Tampa Bay had a split affiliation with Springfield in the American League.
Okay.
And that's it. So they only had 10 spots in the American League. So our team in the East Coast League, there was only 4 of us the last year. There might have only been 3 of us the last year that were not under contract with Tampa at the time. They were all guys that had signed big deals already, and a lot of them never played in the NHL. But that's just how many guys they didn't have a spot for, so they had to play in the coast. And those guys were happy because they were making big money, and in the coast you didn't have to pay for your place or anything. In the American League, when you go up there, you got to pay for your own housing and stuff. So guys were, some of the European guys that knew they weren't going to play in the show but had signed a deal, were much happier to play down on the coast than up in the American League, because at the end of the day they make more money.
Yeah, absolutely. I should have asked too. So what was how much money were you making at this point in time?
In the coast?
In the coast.
Not much. Not
what's
much.
not
$600 a week, probably $700 a week.
$2,400 a month, something like that.
But you don't pay for anything, right?
No, you're living
zero bills.
Zero bills. Even
Zero
food?
bills.
You got to pay for food?
Yeah, but you get so many deals at restaurants and free. But yes, you do pay for your food. But
but I mean, as far as living expenses go,
minimal,
and all the travel you're doing with the team, anyways.
Yeah, you can get by and go home with some. You're not doing it for the money. Let's put it that way, right? The coast was never about the money. The East Coast League was about still making the NHL.
Yeah. How were the fans in Pensacola?
Awesome, great rink, and it seats about 8,500 people. At the time, we were averaging 6,000. It was
decent then.
An awesome place to play. Yeah,
and just walk around in your shorts. I'm just jealous.
Come to the rink in shorts.
Is this not the best time in Lloyd right now? It's the spring is out. The snow is melting. We're crazy, stupid Canadians. We think we can walk around in shorts, and it's 0. Where in the States it's 32, right? Yeah. But it feels like it could. Down there, you're probably walking around. It's 20 above every day, and
got chilly in December, January, just with the wind and everything. But chilly is jeans and a sweater.
Yeah.
But by March, you're right back out on the beach. And in Pensacola, this is something maybe the team never thought about or whatever when they were picking destinations, but that is spring break, central between Pensacola Beach and Destin. That's where all the college kids come from around the country over an entire month, because all the schools stagger. All the divisions within the NCAA stagger their spring break. So you've got a nonstop wave of partiers down there. So sure enough, our end of our season, all 3 years I was there, all 3 years we were there, we had no success. We just shit the bed in the playoffs every year, and it was literally because our guys couldn't stay focused.
Chasing the extracurricular.
Yep. It was unreal. Yeah, we had lots of young guys, young single guys or whatever, so those guys would just be animals. Couldn't rein it in, right? And that's that team. 2013 would have been only the second time they've won a championship in that city over 20 years of hockey or whatever it's been there, and it's always been easy for them to recruit good teams because it's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
So they have good teams, don't kid yourself, but you look at their records and they.
So what the heck has Vegas done then?
Right.
because they are the ultimate nightlife, and they've never had a problem.
Well, I think it's like that all year, though, right? So
They
maybe
just
get
drowned
used
it
to
out.
it.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're East Coast. They had an East Coast League team in Vegas. I'm not sure how they did or whatever. I've never really looked it up, but I'm sure those guys would have struggled too, right?
Yeah.
And there's a difference between the East Coast and the NHL in that regards too. You're gonna have guys that just, I mean, there's not as much accountability from the team.
Yeah.
Looking down on you in the East Coast League compared to an NHL team when they're paying you $1 million or whatever, right?
Yeah. I've always heard the biggest change from going from like the Dub, Junior A, that kind of thing, and then going down and playing East Coast or the Central or anything like that is the nightlife and having to rein that side of things in. Is that at all true?
Yep, for sure. I could see how lots of guys struggle with it. I was fortunate enough that I was married young. So my wife was with me the whole time, so I never had a chance to get in trouble. She kind of kept me in line and made sure I didn't do anything too stupid. Too stupid. There's definitely a couple stupid moments, but nothing that got me into trouble with the law or anything
what's
like that.
What's the worst, or maybe not the worst, but what's the one of the, you don't even have to throw out names by any means, but you have to have stories then from Pensacol, spring break, guys being dumb, getting sat, canned. I don't know. Like, there must be something that pops out in your brain.
Craziest thing that I probably saw happen in Pensacola, and there was a lot that happened, but for one night of drama, our team went out to the bar across the street from the rink after a game. It was in March. Two of our guys that just didn't get along too well. One of them made a comment to the other one about something about his wife, and the one guy grabbed a beer bottle and didn't smash it on his head. He had the beer bottle in his hand and he smushed it on his forehead and broke it. But hit him that hard, pushed the bottle that hard into his forehead. Cut him open. A waitress ended up getting some flying glass in her eye. We didn't find that out till the next morning. But so the cops had those two donkeys out on the street arrested or in cuffs. I just happened to be the guy standing or come out of the bar first to the cops, and they knew I was with the team. And cop asked me for our coach's number. So sure enough, I dial it. Hey, Gordo. There's a guy here that wants to talk to you. Pass the phone over. Cop has a long conversation with our coach. Somehow the two guys in handcuffs that just bottled each other are allowed to go home. So the one goes to the hospital to get stitched up. The other one goes to our trainer's house to get his hand stitched up. Needless to say, 2 hours later, somehow the rest of us are back out on the beach.
Because why not?
Why not? We live on a skinny little couple mile wide width of island. It's just, if you Google Pensacola Beach, you'll get a feel for it. We're all at a bar right by the big beach ball. So if you do Google it, you'll see the big beach ball there on the main beach, and there's a little bar in there, and the rest of us went into there, and sure enough, one of those guys showed up a couple hours later. It's about 3 a.m. Yeah.
That's where you were living? Well, not that exact spot, but that strip?
Yeah.
He ain't kidding, folks. That is a strip of what looks like less than, I don't know, a couple football fields wide of beach.
Yeah, it's
surrounded by water. Holy crap.
It's a gorgeous place. Anyway, so we end up out at this little bar on the beach. Here's the beach ball. We lived in one of the big buildings right beside it, but and the two guys that the incident happened with, they ended up making their way back after going and getting all sewed up. They make their way back to the bar where we all are. Sure enough, shit kicks off again.
Between the same two guys?
Yeah. The same two guys, yeah. And the one guy wasn't liked by many of us, so A few of us may have got involved in it as well a little bit, but it was a gong show, full out gong show, and the same cops ended up out at that one, like just by, I don't know how it happened, but I think it was a complete fluke. But the same cop that asked me for my phone to call my coach the first time
asked for it again.
This time we pretty much got our hands all spread out on the car, and even my wife is got her hands out on the car, and they're patting her down, and they were really mad. That cop was screaming about how he brings his kids to the games and what a great bunch of role models we were. Anyways, we called our coach, and we got driven home, or went home that night. And I'm not sure what the other two guys ended up doing. One of them, I think, got taken away, but one of them wasn't there in the morning. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
For our team meeting at 9:00 the next day, which I don't even know how we made it to that. One of the guys was gone already. Gone. I'm sure he was flying out like literally that same day. And that was probably one of the crazier stories.
Night.
Yeah, I left out a lot of the dirty details, but
you get the picture.
You can get the picture of what went on that night. And that's the first time I've seen teammates bottle each other, and I haven't seen it since. So probably a good thing.
A
good thing. But that's...
I can just imagine being the coach, getting a phone call. You're like, okay, that was stupid, right? All right. They're going to go home. They're going to sleep this off. We'll talk about it in the morning. And then 2 hours goes by, and the same cop calls you on the same phone. Yeah. I got the same two guys again.
Oops.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good. Good for us, though. Good for stories later on.
Absolutely. So then you spend all your time in Pensacol. You decide that you need to go somewhere else. So you end up in Detroit?
Yep.
In elite, I'm not wrong on this. It was the United Hockey League?
Correct.
Which is no more.
No more.
What the heck is the United Hockey League similar to like
East Coast League, Central League?
Same kind of thing, right? Like they all kind of now joined a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the teams that have played in the Central League or the United League over the years are a part of the East Coast League now. The East Coast League has taken over and pretty much grabbed all the good teams. Everybody else, the smaller market teams, will go to the SPHL. But yeah, it was the United League at that time, so that was a pretty big shock to the system. It was either there or Colorado. We were kind of deciding to go to Colorado Eagles, and they were at the time one of the best minor league teams to go to. But Detroit was an expansion team, and Gary Younger was the coach, and
Gary Younger, like we're talking the guy who used to be Iron Man, right? Sorry, that's what I was going to get to. He held the record for most games dressed consecutively in the NHL. I don't think he holds it anymore. Actually, I know he doesn't. I know that record was broke after him.
Cogliano, I think, or someone has it now. Yeah, but he was that original NHL Iron Man. Yeah,
I think he was like 900 consecutive games,
something like that. Yep.
Yeah, like
he was old school.
Yeah, like that's anyone who's played hockey. Hell, anyone who's played any sport. Screw that. Like
that can do it consecutively.
Well, and just not games. Pick up a nick and just wear on a guy and okay, I got to sit a couple out here, get the flu even, right?
Special breed.
Yeah,
and absolutely. A little bit of luck.
And a little bit of luck.
A little bit of luck for sure. But yeah, he was he used to practice with us, but he would just put shin pads on.
Yeah.
Have his tracksuit on. And when we would do any 3-on-3 or any game type stuff, he would jump right in and just start playing, and that's the way when they played in the 70s, 80s, and that's the way they played. They just played like systems, huh? What do you mean system? Like he had no on that side of things for coaching and stuff. He had no answers for the other teams. We had no systems. We did it all in house within our
groups.
Within our captains, kind of organized it, and we made sure we had stuff, structure for that year. But when he was coaching, it's not a knock against Gary at all. It's just the type of guy
and
he
the
was.
era.
Yeah, totally. When they played, they just played. When we came in between periods, he would be reading the newspaper or a Bible. He was a born-again Christian. So that's just the way he was, right? Whereas most coaches now would be going through their clips on their iPad and,
Oh my God,
dissecting everything and coming up with answers in between periods. And
so is it the first? Did you just play there 1 year?
Yeah, just 1 year.
So the 1 year you play there is the NHL lockout year then, right? 04, 05.
Yeah.
And I wrote it on the little bio of this, but you said you played with Chris Chelios, Darian Hatcher, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you followed anything in the NHL for any amount of time, Chris Chelios was, right. I was getting, like, that guy played until he was 44, 45? Somewhere right in that ballpark.
NHL, and then kept playing in the American League.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right? And Darian Hatcher, up until they made the rule changes, was the one guy you didn't want to stand in front of the net with. He was a behemoth.
Yeah.
And then you'd mentioned Shaun Avery came in there, who, well, we all remember him with Marty Brodeur there well, not the other day, but towards the end of his career with the Rangers, right?
Yep.
He is the ultimate agitator.
Yep. He's special. Yep. And then Brian Smolinski was there as well. Who was probably one of the best third, fourth line guys in the NHL. He was a long time, right? Penalty kill guy.
Yeah.
Meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
Meat and potatoes guy. He was probably the most down to earth of them all. Obviously, he's just the way he was. But
so what was it like playing in Detroit with a bunch of current NHL? They weren't X at that time, right? It's a lockout, so they're all just sitting on the sidelines.
Oh yeah, they were all current.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
so
it caused a lot of controversy, for sure.
Really?
Yeah. They took a lot of heat. The very first game we played with them in the lineup, it was just Darian and Chris.
Yeah.
We were playing in Flint. I don't know if you ever heard of Flint, Michigan.
I've heard of Flint, Michigan. Yeah.
Tough place.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a little rink. I think about a 5,000-6,000 seater. But it was there. You could not get a seat for warm up. And when those guys stepped on the ice, man, there was signs everywhere, people hanging over the glass, the whole warm up, like in their ear, you scabs, just ripping on them for playing. What they didn't know at the time was these guys had made a deal with our owner that no one loses their job. Yeah, if we're going to come play, you can't can anyone. And, they were donating their paychecks to some sort of charity. I can't remember exactly how that all worked, but I know they all were, except for Avery. He was the only one that signed his own deal. That's a whole long story. So those three guys ended up. Yeah,
Shanker, we got nothing but time here.
Those three guys didn't want to play anywhere out of Michigan. Those three older guys.
Yeah, you're talking Hatcher, Chelios, and Smolinski.
So they would play road games, but only to Flint, Michigan, or Kalamazoo, places that were Muskegon, an hour and a half, 2 hours away, Port Huron, that's it. They weren't going to go to Danbury. They weren't going to go to Kansas City, 16 hours on a bus. Just wasn't going to happen, right? Avery, though, he signed his deal to play the full meal deal. He was getting paid differently than those guys. He had signing bonuses that those guys didn't. He was younger at the time, though, right? From Chelios and Hatcher and them.
Yeah.
But then he ended up not honoring that. He ended up playing the year, but he wouldn't make the far trips, and that was partly because of he wouldn't go to Danbury. They were, if you ever look up Danbury Thrashers and look up their roster in whatever the year that was, 2004, 2005. That's one of the toughest teams. They had Nadur, they had Trevor Sen, they had Mike Rupp, Dave McIsaac, Brad Winfield. I could go on, like Morasti. They had honestly like 10 heavyweights, and Avery was supposed to go there.
And he wouldn't go?
Last minute he ditched out because Chelios and them signed with us, and him and Chelios are tight, and he wanted to live at Chelios' house, and so he kind of screwed Danbury over, and the owner of Danbury, who Gerard Gallant, I think is his name. You can look him up. He went to jail after that because he owns a.
Isn't Gerard Gallant a coach?
Well, oh yeah, maybe I'm getting their last name is Gallant.
Is Gallant.
Could
Not
be
that it
wrong,
matters, but
if you look it up, there's a documentary on the Danbury Thrashers.
Danbury Thrashers, I'll have to check that out.
Trashers. It's a trash can as a logo. He owns a waste disposal. And his 19-year-old son, and so this is the Danbury Trashers in the United League. This guy's 19-year-old son was their GM. He used to wear like big baggy FUBU jeans and big baggy hoodie, and sure enough, the very first game we were playing there, we ended up getting a quick lead on them, and he's hanging across the rink out of their little press box. It was a really small rink, only a 2,000 or 3,000 seat rink, and he's hanging out, basically signaling to his bench, time to get going, let's start scrap in here. And that's exactly what happened, was line brawl after that. But that's just the gong show that league was at the time, man. It was insane. And Avery would not go there. He would not go there because that owner told him, if you come back here with Motor City or any other team, you will not walk out of this building. And I pretty much guarantee you that would have happened had he shown up. They were probably the craziest team I've ever seen.
I'm going to guess you had to throw down a couple times in that rink then.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely happened at some point. I'm sure of that. I can't remember who I ended up scrapping, but I remember being a part of a line brawl that night, actually. Yeah. Not a fun place to play.
So what was skating with like Chelly? Like, okay, so everybody knows Shaun Avery. I mean, you could talk about his contract if you want. Like,
yeah, I don't know enough about it. I know he was making pretty good money though, playing where in the United League for that year. But yeah, they were all awesome guys. Avery was all right guy. He's different, right? And he didn't really give a shit about me or anyone else, and I got no problem saying that. It was just a paycheck and passing some time for him, but the other guys were awesome. Smolinski was awesome. Hatcher, Chelios, they were great. Chris Draper skated with us all year.
Yeah, Chris Draper was supposed to play, but then something came up, right?
He was in the middle of getting his green card.
Yeah.
And had he signed a visa, because he's Canadian, and he hadn't got his green card yet. So basically, if he had signed a visa to play with Motor City, it would have jeopardized that. So unfortunately, we didn't get him for the year, but at least we had the other guys.
Yeah.
They were unreal, and both Chelios owned Chelly's Chili Bar.
Yeah.
Darian Hatcher owned a pub. It was like a 3-story pub, real nice, 5 blocks from our condos, from where we were living. Chelios's bar, we would leave there and he would have an H2 Hummer limousine ready to go, and that's how we'd fire home. Once a month we'd probably go there and party and get limoed home, and so we got a little taste of what it was like to play in the show. Just the life. That's the biggest difference, right? From the lifestyle changes a little bit.
Yeah, instead of rolling in a taxi, you're rolling in whatever you want, pretty much.
Yeah, instead of taking a sleeper bus to Kansas City for 16 hours, you're flying on a private jet. That's pretty much the way she goes. Yeah. We once had a bus that broke down on the way from Detroit to Kansas City. Good thing we went 2 days before. We sat in a garage for 10 hours waiting for this sleeper bus to get fixed, and then continued on. So we ended up spending like a total of 26 hours on this thing. Oh my God.
Wow.
That
You're
was
talking to the ultimate minor leaguer. All I did was bus everywhere. Yeah. In college, when I was playing Div 3, we were in upstate Wisconsin, and we had to go across the lakes, up and around and back down to Adrian, and it was like a 10-hour bus ride. And I remember our bus breaking down in the middle of Michigan, in the middle of winter, right?
Fun,
right? On a 10-hour ride back home after getting our absolute asses kicked, because they were the best in our league by a long shot.
Yep.
And I had a headache. I'd heard their goal horn so many times, right? And then to sit on a bus riding home, thinking about what you're doing with your life, And then for the bus to croak, it was just like a cherry on top to the way the night had been
Salt
going.
in the wound, no doubt. Yeah, a few of those for sure.
So you got to tell me this. I've been waiting all hour and 14 minutes to ask about Kid Rock. Because you got Kid Rock down. What is that about?
That was Chelios. Like, that guy knows everybody. But him and Kid Rock were real tight. So much so that when he came in the room, we weren't allowed to call him Kid or Kid Rock. It was Bobby. I don't know. He hung out a few times. The only thing I have to show for it is a couple pictures. But yeah, he used to come down to our dressing room after the games once in a while and hang out. And he came to Hatcher's. The only time I saw him sing for free, we went to Hatcher's bar one night as a team, and we were all upstairs. And then all of a sudden, Chelios just kept on him, and the place started filling up. So you could tell the locals around that area had been getting word that he was there. Yeah. And all of a sudden, that pub had 1,000 people in there, and he got up on stage and ended up busting a couple songs. Yeah, it was pretty sweet.
Pretty unreal.
Yeah, it was pretty unreal.
I mean, because at that time, that's Kid Rock and his pretty much his height of his career, right?
In his hometown,
yeah, and in his hometown.
Crazy. Yeah, it was pretty neat. Pretty neat. John Cusack was at our game one time, just hanging out. My wife and one of the other wives went up to him to get a picture, and he wasn't the most polite of guys. And I mean, they were pretty good-looking girls. I couldn't understand why he would be like that, but I guess he's a bit of a prick or something. So I don't fucking know. Maybe we should edit that part out.
Oh no, John Cusack, if you're listening, you can come rebuttal it here on the Shaun Newman podcast, right? Like, John's probably got better things to do than to listen to my.
Yeah, he's probably not listening to this.
And if he is, and it gets his tail failures in a ruffle, he can give me a call.
Yeah.
Now, so you go from Detroit, you play there 1 year in a league that only lasts 2, I think.
Yeah, at that time, yeah.
And then, so you go from playing with Chelios and Hatcher and Avery and all these guys, and then all of a sudden you're overseas. What was the mindset in heading to Britain is where you end up?
Yeah. I got a phone call from a guy I played with in Pensacol, and he just said, I signed over here, and do you want to talk to the coach? It was in a place called Basingstoke.
Yeah.
South England. About 45-minute train ride from London. It's actually a beautiful little town. Great people. Tiny little old school rink. Only seats a couple thousand people. But what a place. It was great experience. Great people. My wife and I fell in love with the place and ended up staying there for 3 years. I didn't even know they had hockey over there at the time. I literally didn't even know.
Yeah.
But at the time, that league was 10 imports at that time, and those imports had to have played in the East Coast League, American League, or NHL in North America at the time to get over there. Even so, and the only reason that I qualified to go there, because I played in the United League, and that didn't count. They were trying to keep the caliber up, so that was the guidelines or the rules at the time. And I got lucky enough because my grandma on my mom's side, she was born in England, so I was able to get what's called an ancestry stamp.
Yeah, I remember looking into that when I went.
Yeah,
because my ancestry comes from Britain, so yeah. I know what you're talking about there.
Right? Yeah. You should have.
Which is I don't know.
Got it.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I went and played at the time. I went and played. Well, my girlfriend at the time was getting her master's in at St. Lawrence, was upstate New York.
Yep.
Right below Ottawa, and I don't know. If I wasn't dating anyone, I probably wouldn't have come back, right? But at the time, I knew it was either you come back and get this going the right direction, or you're a single hockey player.
No doubt.
She wasn't coming over to Europe, and I don't blame her, right? It wasn't. Yeah, you never know.
It's for some and not for others.
That's right. And maybe in 8 years, I would have been making the league minimum and had some stories under my belt, or more stories than I had. But
Right.
yeah, I was making €150 a month, and I was having a great time doing it because nothing beats that lifestyle.
Right.
Like nothing.
No.
But at the same
Not
time,
about the money.
at the same time, I came back, and now I've played. Well, we've played. I didn't mention this either. Like, you got to play I was thinking about it the other day. It's probably your last year of competitive hockey. I think I got to. We
Yep.
won the Alberta Bronze there with a SAS team, right? Like,
Yep.
we've been back now in Hillmond. I've been back in Hillmond. This is my 8th season,
Crazy.
which is crazy. And up until this point, I've never played anywhere longer than 4 years, right? So,
Right.
had the same defense partner for 7 of them.
I know, it's unreal.
Right? Like, it just that doesn't translate into most things.
No.
And so I'm not disappointed I did what I did. Well, now I got 2 kids, and
Yep.
I've made a life back here at home and everything else, right? So
Yep.
I'm not disappointed in my choices one iota.
Nope, can't be.
But it also helps that here in Canada we love our hockey. We have senior hockey the way we do, and
Right.
and you get to keep
Having
playing
an opportunity to play.
competitively, right?
Totally.
Yeah. All right, so you're over in Britain. I'm going to ask you this every single time. What kind of contract are you signing there? Like, is it decent money, or is it back to this $400 a week? Or
No, it was better money then. Like,
Yeah.
we actually, at the end of the year, when it was all said and done, came home with a good chunk of change, right? It's not life-changing money or anything
No.
that, but
But you're still playing hockey.
yeah, like you can make $1,000-$1,500 a week.
Jeez, that's isn't that
Canadian.
Canadian, yeah,
Right. And have no expenses.
yeah.
Right. You
Where
get
did they
to-
in Britain? What did they do with you? Did they put you in a condo? Or?
Yep. Yeah, we always had condos or little. No, the one time we had a little mini house too. But yeah, it was mostly condos. Yep.
Yeah. I lived in a hotel.
Yep. Yeah.
They bought me a hotel room.
Yep.
And I got to know the staff extremely well. Yeah.
I saw that a few times over
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're playing in a small little rink in, what was the place called? Basingstoke?
Basingstoke. Yep.
Basingstoke. What was it like?
It was awesome. To be honest, that was for a little rink with not a ton of resources.
Yeah.
They did a phenomenal job of making players feel good about being there. It was a different. It's hard to explain. Just the community, the people. It was a different experience from the States even. Pensacol was similar with a real tight, booster club and people that you always see around and stuff. But where in Basingstoke, it was all of them, all the fans, or you felt like you knew them kind of thing. And it's hard to explain. But my wife and I loved it there. We ended up staying there for 3 years. We went through 3 owners, I think, in that time. That I don't even have enough time to get into all of those. But
yeah, all that pops in my mind is when they went through 3 owners is like Eugene Melnick or something, right? Like where it was just a crazy owner after crazy owner after crazy owner.
it's basically in Basingstoke, the ice rink there. It's called Planet Ice. They own arenas all over the UK.
Okay.
Like public skating there is a big thing, right? They make good money. Those arenas survive and make good money off public skating. And so Planet Ice owned us. And basically, if somebody came forward ever and were like, you know what, I want to own a team, they wouldn't bat an eyelash about selling it off to a private guy that, has more money that could do better things for it, right? But they'll always be there as a kind of a plan B,
fail-safe or whatever, yeah.
right? Just to keep the hockey in the town, and that's how it works. So we had 2 owners in between the Planet Ice owners come in and think they could do it, and that failed miserably. The one guy was a real estate agent who, by the end of it, realized that when you're shelling out $15,000 a week in salaries to your imports and all these bills and everything, for apartments and vehicles and flights, and it adds up fast. So he was stealing from his, he owned a letting agency, a rental agency. So he was stealing on his land or his tenants' money, and instead of paying the rent to the landlords. He was putting it into the team. So he ended up getting busted and going tits up, so to speak. Planet Ice took back over, and then they found another owner. And the only part I really remember about this was a group of us older guys on the team at the time, the captains or whatever. We were up in the room and meeting with the Planet Ice people, and them telling us about this Swedish guy that's coming in. He's got more money than anyone, and sure enough, he comes in. He's got the long trench coat on, the 10,000 pound watch, and he's telling us, like, you know, how first, one of the first questions he asked us, which is super strange, but I remember him asking us, "How are you guys getting paid right now? Check or somebody said, well, sometimes we get cash and some guys are getting checks." And I remember him specifically saying, "What's a check? Like, I haven't dealt with checks in years." He was this modern guy that, you know, obviously he was making fun of Planet Ice for paying guys with checks. Well, he lasted about 3 months before the gig was up on him too. He ran out of cash real quick, but he was another shady dude trying to funnel money through a sports team. And I don't know, man. There was a million things that happened in between there of us not getting paychecks, and me and the coach going as far as going to the rink one morning before a game and taking all the equipment out of the dressing room, putting it in our cars, driving it back to our apartments, and then calling the arena and saying, "Hey, you better call our owner and tell him nobody's playing tonight until our 3 weeks in wages are paid." And because the guys don't even have sticks or anything. They don't. We took all the equipment out of the room, literally, so they could not play a game, just so the guys get paid, right? And we ended up getting paid up, and Planet Ice ended up taking over the team for the second time in my short stay there over 3 years. But with those comes another billion stories. But it was pretty interesting.
Oh, the things you don't hear about a guy playing overseas, right?
Totally, man. Like it's some of the stuff that happened was absolutely unbelievable. Like, this owner went out with an opposing team after a game one night and was buying them all drinks, gave their captain his big watch he had on his wrist. He got hammered and obviously was being a bit of an idiot, but he had a wad of cash in his, and the guys on that team that were playing for the Cardiff Devils at the time, when they finished that night of partying with our owner, all of them were calling and texting all the guys they knew on our team because they knew exactly what was going on. "Oh, you guys hadn't been paid in 3 weeks, and oh, your owner is out with us buying us drinks all night. Gave Voth the watch," and oh man, unreal. So that's when we took the equipment out. Was that night after we heard he was out buying another team booze all night and giving them a watch and all this ridiculous stuff. Yeah. Anyways, that was one of the maybe not so nice moments in Basingstoke. Everything else from my time in Basingstoke was fantastic. Like I said, the community, the people there, it was something else, especially when you don't expect to go into that, right?
Yeah.
We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into when we moved over there, Jamie and I. So
yeah,
it was
what I always ask about the fans. Well, maybe I should start off with the question. Are you a fan guy or are you a climate guy? So if you were to make a team or you could choose any team, would you want to have the building packed all the time, or would you like to walk into the rink in shorts? It's kind of a Canada versus U.S.
Right.
Do you have a choice, a preference?
I'd probably...
Because you've played probably in both now.
I'd rather have a full rink.
Yeah, it's funner to play in front of the fans.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm a fan guy. So you're in Basingstoke.
Yeah. What
were the fans like?
Awesome.
Did they
even though it was a tiny rink?
Yeah, but you can have 400 fans seem like they're 2,000, right?
Totally.
And you and the vice versa. Yep. You can have 15,000 fans be quiet as a church mouse.
And there's nothing better than going into a Nottingham who's got 10,000 people in the rink and shutting their building silent by the end of the night.
By the end of the night, right?
That's I'm the crowd there was they were fun.
Did they have cool chants or anything that sticks out?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what the chants were, but they definitely would chant your name after a scrap.
But they
would have full on chants that the whole crowd would get into.
I was saying on last week's podcast that I can't remember the town in Finland, but we went there, and anytime their team got on the power play, they'd start the slow clap from the far end. So as they're bringing the puck up the ice, they're doing the slow clap, just methodical, right? And then once they get it set up, then the clap just gets faster and faster, and you get like, I called it 2,000 fans. Somewhere in that ballpark. Yep. But you get 2,000 fans, and their clap goes from slow all the way anticipating, and then if it gets shot down, it starts all over in this wave form, wave and wave. And when they scored, it was like at the peak of the clap, and they're going so fast, then they score in the building and go nuts. As a player, it was like, even being opposed, I was like, man, this is kind of cool, right? You kind of hope they score, right? Well, maybe give them one just to see what happens. The lid goes off the building, and okay, maybe don't do that again. But it was still cool. Every time you took a penalty, we don't have anything over in North America that I know of anything like that. No. Like, do you remember anything like that?
So yeah, I do. I can't remember any exact specific chants or anything like that, but there's I know exactly what you mean. It's a totally different atmosphere over there, and it's definitely that soccer mentality, right? Like I said earlier, you have some places where people literally don't sit down for the entire game. Yeah. And they got flags.
Did your league have the gold helmets?
Nope, that's Germany.
And Finland.
Finland.
And actually, it's probably all over the place
does
now.
It too.
Yeah. So for people who don't know,
when the British teams play in the Champions League or whatever, they have to abide by.
They have to abide by. So what happens is the leading scorer of each individual team has to wear a gold helmet so you can pick them out in the crowd. It's quite humorous to watch if you're a fan. You're like, what the heck are they doing? But you can pick out the leading scorer of any team, right? They got gold helmets on.
I'm sure he loves that.
No kidding, right? Like there's no hiding with a big old...
Yeah. Like it wasn't hard enough already. Now you're putting a giant target on my head. We never had to do that.
Never had to do that.
No. Thank God.
Let's talk about, you were talking the Champions Cup. I'm thinking Continental Cup.
Yep.
Continental Cup Champions
League.
Because you guys you didn't win it, but you came awfully close.
Bronze, yep.
Yeah, bronze. Maybe let's talk a little bit about that, because honestly, I don't even know how it all works, but I know it's built kind of on the same premise as soccer, right?
Yep, absolutely. With like in Europe, it doesn't matter if you're in Britain or if you're in Germany, or they all like winning the regular season is the big to do. Like if you can win the regular season,
so you're talking like most points, like the President's Trophy in the NHL.
Exactly. Yeah. The President's Trophy in the NHL is the Stanley Cup over there to all of them. Most leagues are like that. Britain certainly was like that. Playoffs is a big deal too, but just not as much. The playoff format in Britain is like the NCAA. It's a Frozen Four kind of thing. Four teams make the final weekend. It's usually held in Nottingham because they have one of the bigger rinks. But the Continental Cup is the winner from the season
total. So all your President's Trophy winners.
Yes. Or head to the Continental Cup the next season.
Right.
So, but there will be guys on that team that didn't win
it the year before. Yeah,
it's really kind of strange.
It's a year. It lags a year.
Yeah, it lags a year, and it's... I don't know how else would you do it, I guess, but unless you completely change the qualifying stages, but... it's a great experience. It was awesome.
So you get to go to the Continental Cup because you were the highest point in the...
We were league champions.
Yes.
In Sheffield.
Yeah. And so then you get to go from there into the Continental Cup and play the top team out of Germany, the top team out of...
All over. Who knows? There's like 40 teams or more.
So where did you go? Who'd you
there's
play?
like 60 teams, I think, that are compiled into it at the start of the year.
Yeah.
And the lowest... The lower teams play more rounds. Like we started, our first round was actually in round 3 because our country is ranked
higher
than the other guys.
Right.
So we started off in the semifinal, basically. In the first year I took part in it. We won the league. So I'd gone from Basingstoke to Sheffield.
Yeah.
Had enough of the switching owners and all the and I really didn't want to leave, or we didn't really want to leave Basingstoke. We loved it there. We had our first kid was born, and it was just a comfy place. But that's the business side of it, right? Sometimes you just got to go. And so we ended up going to Sheffield. We won the league that year and the playoffs. But because we won the league, we qualified for the Continental Cup. The first round for us was in Bolzano, Italy. So I believe there was us, Bolzano, a team from Croatia, and then a team from the Netherlands. So we ended up playing Bolzano in the finals in their rink. They have a $5 million payroll.
$5 million payroll.
They had a big payroll.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you, any idea who the big guys were?
I can't remember who had all been there at the time. Lane Ulmner, he played for Team Canada in the Spangler Cup a bunch of years, and but they were good. They were good.
Yeah.
And we were shorthanded. I think we were down to 12, 13 guys. We ended up beating them in a shootout in the final.
In front of their home crowd.
In front of their home crowd. Their GM walked out. Their owner walked out on the ice and fired their GM on the ice. Huge screaming match right at the end of the game on the ice before we had even shaken hands. Those two were yelling at each other. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
We saw
WWE style.
Yeah, we ended up finding out after what actually happened, and that GM had been there for 7 years or something like that. So he was. I guess it really wasn't a good thing they lost to us. So we ended up winning that round and qualifying for the super final is what they called it.
What they call it.
And 3 months later, we went to Grenoble in France, and we beat Grenoble. They were in the top French league.
So then 4 teams there again?
Yep. 4 teams there again.
Meet up
there
again.
was Minsk. They play in the KHL.
Yeah.
And then Red Bull, Salzburg Red Bull. In the Austrian league, the top Austrian league. Pierre Paget was their coach at the time. They had another big payroll. They're all decked out in the Red Bull gear. You see those guys, eh?
Yeah.
They flew from Austria to France, and their poor bus driver had to drive the bus all the way from home to there just so they could have their Red Bull bus with the big horns coming off the front of it and everything for the weekend. And then they fly back, and this poor bus driver has to drive it back through the Swiss Alps again.
I'm sure he's getting paid handsomely.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
exactly. But that's how babied those guys were.
I got to ask, how was the KHL team?
Fast.
Yeah.
I think we ended up losing 6-2 to Minsk because we lost in we lost our last game to Red Bull, the Austrian team there. We lost 6-2 as well, I believe. But, yeah, they were faster than the Austrian team.
You just always hear so much about the KHL, right?
Yeah.
Like guys going over there and it pays well and blah, blah, blah. You've heard, it's just behind the NHL, it's probably the most talked about league in the world.
Yeah.
Is the KHL.
Yeah, and it's not on the same, you can't even really compare it to the NHL.
No. Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it's a fast league. It's just not as tough, right?
Yeah.
NHL is, they're not fighting, and it's still a tough league, right?
You
tough
still
to play in, right?
Each team has 8 lines of deep players who are exceptionally good, right?
Right.
And I say 8 lines because you got 4 in the show and 4 in the AHL, right? Like that's pretty much how every team's built now. Your farm system has a full team of guys who can be called up and moved around.
Yep, absolutely. And the stars, even the stars are machines, some of them, right? Ovechkin's 6'3", 240. You got guys like that running around, and he plays physical too, right?
He can just put the puck in the net.
Yeah,
have you ever seen a guy just sit in the same bloody spot all the time? You know he's going to sit there.
Tee up
he's going to
one-timers.
shoot from there.
Right.
Everybody in the rink knows it's coming, and he still puts it bar in, and you're just like, that's pretty
because if you cheat on him, they'll
Wow, they got enough weapons, right?
Totally.
Speaking of current business right now, did you see that Holtby's not going to the White House? He declined. Well, they watched him win Stanley Cup, right? So then they get to go to the White House, and he just came out and said him and one other, and I'm spacing on who the other Washington Capital is. There's two of them, I think.
He's Canadian.
Yeah.
So is it because of something that's happening in Canada?
I think the quote I read on him is he just said that I think Trump, goes against some things he believes very firmly in, and he'd prefer not to go, and so he's not going.
Risky move. I get it. I think I get it.
I think I get it too. The only thing I was thinking is if Canada had a White House, which we don't.
Right.
But if we did, and our prime minister every year invited the Stanley Cup champs to come.
Right.
Right now, would half of Alberta or all of Alberta, Saskatchewan, would they go?
Right.
And I go, they'd go to burn the place down probably.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
probably.
There's not too many people that would go visit Trudeau. So I can, from that standpoint, I can kind of get behind. Yeah. I understand. The only thing I always like, White House is the White House.
Yeah, you kind of got to look past your...
Well, I go like, man, are you ever going to get back there?
Yeah.
Maybe you do. But then again, Trump might get him voted in again for another 4.
What happened to the last goalie that didn't go to the White House?
Tim Thomas? Is Tim Thomas... Well, Tim Thomas, he was a little older than Holtby is right now.
Yeah, but it directly affected his relationships in the rest of the NHL.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Holtby's career is going to even change at all or anything, but it's just a risky move. That's all.
Rocking the boat. Yeah,
you never know, man. I don't know. Those NHL higher ups they're old school. So I don't know. Maybe it's not such a big deal. Maybe as owners maybe the team came in and said, hey, you guys actually do have a proper right now to say no or whatever. So we don't know, right?
Well, I'll say this from the news, just watching on news.
Yeah.
When Tim Thomas did it,
yeah,
it was like, holy hell, he's going to do what? And now, to me, there's been so many national
stories around
sports figures across all sports not go there now, that it's almost maybe more of one on the line. That just is something that's happening more and more.
Just surprised it's a Canadian or another nationality doing it. That's surprising. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. Maybe it'll help get oil going again up here. I don't know.
You're talking to we're two guys here who's stuck in the oil patch. It hasn't been all sunshine and roses here for a while.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Maybe this will help. Go Holtby.
How about
pipeline?
How about your second year in the Continental Cup? Because you did do 2, right? And was it not the year with Sheffield you got a bronze? It was the next year.
No, the first year was Sheffield.
Oh, Sheffield was the bronze.
Yeah. The next year after, or I don't think it was the exact next year, maybe the year after that, but the next time I went was with Coventry. I played for 3 teams in the UK in the Elite League: Basingstoke Bison, Sheffield Steelers, and the Coventry Blaze. So I went with Coventry. We won the league. And then went to the Continental Cup, but we just went to the first round in Rouen in France. Yeah. We ended up losing in the final to the host team, Rouen.
How were they?
They were good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Awesome crowd like that. They had a good crowd.
What the heck? Okay, so you go from playing. I think you've been over in Britain for what's that? 6 years?
Yeah.
7 years. 7 years.
Yeah.
You got a couple of kids by that time, or just the one?
Two at that time. Yep.
So is that what brings you back?
Mostly, yeah. Mainly, like my wife and I kind of always said once we started to have kids, and at that time we had 2. Yeah, it was once they were ready to go to school. That's probably when we're gonna look at shutting her down. And Coden, my oldest son, he was going to school. He actually did a full year of school in England. They start at 3.
Start at 3?
At 3. Yeah, and they go
what was that like?
3 days a week, and they have little uniforms. And it was
did he enjoy it?
Yep. Yeah, he enjoyed it. But that was just the time, right? I knew that my guys were ready to go for school. It's time to get everything anchored down. And
So
my body was falling apart too.
What brought you to Lloyd?
Border Kings, really, and employment.
Yeah.
You got to think I'm 32 at this time. Now I'm panicking a little bit because I'm in that spot that everybody always warned me I was going to be in, just minus the NHL dollars that I was supposed to have, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, Lehman called me one day, Jody Lehman.
Yeah. I see Jody every once in a while.
Yeah, he finished a year before me.
Overseas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just called one day that last season that I was in Coventry. It was in Feb. Said, hey, are you playing next year? What are you doing? And I said, yeah, it's winding down and this will probably be my last year. And so he just explained that the Border Kings were hosting the Allen Cup in 2011. And
I came back that year. That was my first year back.
Yeah.
I came and skated with you guys once.
Right.
And then I started my illustrious career with the Hillmont Hitmen.
Yeah, why didn't you play that year with us?
So I came in, when was that? Probably December 20th.
Right.
Something like that. It was close to Christmas. Maybe a smidge before that. And I remember coming skating with you guys once.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I didn't play, but basically it was implied that there was no room on the team anymore. By that time, you guys had... I don't know. I didn't play on the team. You guys had a good team, right? And so I was, once again, a 5'7" little D-man. You know, I'd come from playing some pro over in Europe, but I was a small little guy, and you guys were a big team that year. Yeah. And whether or not I could have helped, maybe I could have, right? But maybe it was for the best that I went out to Helmond, and it's for me, going out to Helmond's maybe one of the best things that ever happened to me. I got out there and reconnected with a lot of good people, and I've had a lot of good times out in Helmond. Like, it's
a lot of success too.
Wow, except for the finals, you can't seem to find a way. This is, so last week I was talking with Harland about, hey, we're going into Game 5. Well, we lose Game 5, right? It's just the way hockey goes. Yep. We hit a line. You were talking back in the Max tournament when you guys were unbelievable. I'm pretty sure that night, Bailey Zur line scored 98% of their goals. So what does any smart hockey team do? Shut down the top line. Pretty simple. They don't score, and they still found ways to score, right? And that's how on fire they were all through the finals, all through playoffs. They went through us and Wainwright, right? Yep. And so we've been to the finals now the last 3 straight years. One year with you, your first year you came. Yep. We had no business being there. Right? Like we were, like, remember we were dressing like 12, 13 guys a game, right? Yep. And, we got to win the last game of the year in provincials. That was a lot of fun, right? And then the next year we get reverse swept, so up 3-0, and then what no one ever likes to talk about, you lose 4 straight. That one hurt. We're a minute away, up 2-1 in Game 4 in Wainwright. Up 2-1, they find a way to squeak one in. I was on the ice for that. I almost cried. OT comes, we're all over again, and they find another CNI shot, and after that, it's just like the entire tide turned. Yep. Right? And then this year, 19-0, we have a perfect regular season. That's unreal. It was a lot of fun, and you got to catch breaks to do that, because there was a couple games we did not deserve. Right. Get into playoffs and make it to the finals again, and then it's just right. Doesn't work. Well, I mean, at least we'll see how my next podcast goes, because this week coming we get provincials again. We get Daysland, Morinville, Lethbridge. And we play AA provincials here in Wainwright. They're hosting again. Oh, right, okay. And so Thursday we play. Yep. Friday, Saturday. There's 6 teams in it. The top 2 play each other for gold. The third and fourth play for bronze. In Wainwright. Shit, I didn't think you guys were going to. Yeah, we're going this year. That's awesome. Yeah. Whoa. Why not? We may never get to go again, right? I think Hockey Alberta said that if any Saskatchewan team out of our league, so if you don't know the Saskatchewan, you got 7 Saskatchewan, 7 Alberta. Mm-hmm. And so the winner of the league goes to Hockey Alberta Provincials, but the way Saskatchewan works is anyone can go Saskatchewan Provincials, right? You just declare it and away you go. Yeah. And so what I believe has been said or communicated to our league is if any team after this year goes, because Meadow Lake and Wahlberg both went Saskatchewan, so if any of those teams any of the 7 go Saskatchewan Provincials next year. Doesn't matter if you win league as a SAS team. They won't let you come Alberta Provincials, right? So this might be the last year for some time that a SAS team gets to go.
Right.
And, I mean, it's Provincials. It's
right.
a lot of fun.
No doubt.
Right? And a tournament format. At this stage in my life, there's very few times you get to go play in a tournament on a weekend and against that good a caliber, right? Like,
yeah, you're
playing the best teams in Alberta minus
Absolutely.
the Chinook League where their payroll is hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
Yep. There's some of those teams are shelling out some bucks.
Yeah.
I know the year that we played in the Allen Cup there, some of those teams were like Rosetown was unreal.
They still are unreal.
Yeah.
They're still paying ungodly amounts from what I've been told.
Yep.
Right? I don't know how the heck you survive doing that.
I don't know.
Somebody smarter than me knows how to do it, I guess.
Yeah, they must have good support around town, and that means pocketbook support, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely, right? They got high talent going there.
And they got guys that are traveling in, too, they're still bringing guys in from Calgary and stuff, I heard.
So who brought you in for to Lloyd then?
Stanny
did, yeah.
Yep. Jody Lehman, yeah.
Jody giving you the call, but Stanny would have been coaching at the time.
Yeah. Stanny, that's who I started talking to, and we just moved back to Calgary at the end of the year and moved here July 1st, 2011, and kind of the rest is history. I had a job lined up, and
I heard you're starting something new up here.
Trying to. Yeah, we're just kind of really in the early stages.
Am I putting you under the gun? Yeah, we don't have...
a little bit, but no, it's all good. No, it's
we can cut this part out if you like.
No, it's good, man. I want to ultimately I would, love to be teaching hockey maybe in a different form than I am now. Under the minor hockey, with the minor hockey teams, it's different to coach. It's tough coaching kids, right? Like I'm coaching my own kids right now, and I don't know. We're looking to start some private stuff and get a few groups going and teach in a little more intimate setting, I guess. Smaller groups, right?
Yep.
6 to 8 kids kind of on the ice.
Yeah.
Instead of it's a totally different thing when you're going out and you're taking kids and you're working on specific stuff that they want to work on. They're there on their own time, right? Which is above and beyond their minor hockey commitments. That's just where I think I can make the most impact from the experiences that I've learned. That's just where I think it's kind of headed right now.
Okay, cool. Maybe. Well, I won't put you under the gun on it. When it gets up and going, you just let us know, and we'll
awesome.
We'll give it a blast. I should blast out, and I'm gonna apologize to Harlan here. Up until this point, we're doing this Sunday instead of Tuesday night, like we'd previously talked about, because of complications on my end. But tomorrow morning in the Weekly Bean, the little newspaper in Lloyd and Kinnersley, Moose Jaw, there's going to be a little blurb about Bradley here and the podcast, which is cool. So I got a huge shout out to the Weekly Bean, which is cool. So I got to go pick a copy up tomorrow and see what it's going to look like, because I was going to bring one in so we could take a look at her, because it's the first one that's ever happened. So,
no way.
Yeah, it should be.
Thank you, Weekly Bean.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be pretty cool. I had two before we end this.
Yep.
Yeah, I got to always point out, I don't know if I'm getting better at this or I just get more long-winded, but we're closing on 2 hours, and that's a new record for me, because usually it's about an hour. Wow, it started out at 45 minutes with Ken, and then it just gets longer and longer and longer. So here we sit. I had read, I'm going back to your Motor City days. I had read a thing about Steve Shannon being suspended. Is that in your time? Do you know anything about that?
Oh, yeah.
For offering money for guys going out to hurt players?
Oh, yeah. How the hell did you find that story? That is unbelievable.
I do my homework.
Yeah.
And I meant to bring it up while we were talking about it, but we got sidetracked. But I got a note here to ask about it, whether it is true or not.
Technically, he was the guy that brought the NHL guys in.
Okay.
So Gary Younger was our coach.
Yep.
We were 5-25. going into the first quarter of the season or whatever. This Shannon guy, what's his first name?
Steve Shannon.
Yeah, Steve Shannon. That's right. Yeah. Okay. He was my coach for like 3 weeks.
Yep.
He so I don't know how he got linked up with the Chelios and the Hatcher and stuff, but he basically must have come to our owner, who was a little slumlord at the time. This guy used to literally buy buildings, kick people out of them, renovate them, and sell them to higher class. That's just the way he did his business. Anyways, he owned our hockey team. Great guy. Yeah. Real good guy. So Steve Shannon came in, convinced this guy to take him on as a guy that's never coached past like junior B in Detroit, Michigan, because he would bring the NHL guys. So we're 5-25. They fire Gary Unger. Actually, they didn't fire them. They moved him into a different position. The Steve Shannon dude comes in. The NHL guys come in. Everything's lovely and good. And first game we played, I said, was in Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
And that night, they were extremely hard on Darian and Chelios. Like, actually, no. Darian played on his own that night. And after all that happened, at the end of the game, that our coach, Steve Shannon, came in and basically said, next time we play these guys, I want this guy, and that guy. I want them not finishing the game. Yeah, like they're not going to finish the game. By the time everything cooled down and we came back to Flint, like right away, it was probably within 7 days. I think that was our very next game. We turned around, came right back to Flint, and that in the dressing room before the game, he basically just said, "Fuck it, anyone that can knock Kurt Kerr's this." I can't remember what his first name is. His last name is
Kevin Kerr.
Kevin Kerr. Yeah, he's like the all-time, one of the minor pro gods of hockey for most points by a U.S.-born guy, I think. This guy literally put a bounty on his head, and he was dead serious. Dead serious. So whatever happened during the game, you can't do that. What he didn't know, what that coach didn't know was half the guys in our dressing room had played with
Kevin Kerr.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't have a clue who this coach is. He just came because the NHL guys, he was able to get them in somehow. So yeah, anyways, we ended up having, I can't remember who the guy was from, but he was an investigator. He came in, and actually there was a group of investigators that came in, and it was the very next practice, and they pulled us all aside. We all gave our testimonies, and the next day that Steve Shannon was no longer our coach. I think it was the shortest pro coaching career in the history of pro coaching. Yeah, he never got another shot. Anyways, that was a legit story. Like, I've been asked that before. Like, has anyone ever put a bounty on a guy before? And
well, I mean,
yeah,
we saw the coach of what it did for me when I was reading about it. Is it gave me flashbacks of the coach from the Saints in New Orleans Saints in NFL, Scott Payton.
Yeah.
Somebody listening, I don't know if that's the right name, but the head coach, still the head coach. He got suspended for a season.
Intentionally going after certain guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
And paying them, I think.
Right. Bonuses.
Yeah. And so when I read this, I'm like, oh my God.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I'm glad I asked it, because it's sitting there, and I kind of forgot about it in the middle there. So people are listening are going to have to make it to the 2-hour mark to find just a gem.
He was the only coach I've ever played for out of all 12 years I played hockey professionally or semi-pro, whatever the heck you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, he played pro.
He was the only guy that walked across the ice surface in between periods with a coffee in his hand and brought it onto the bench and sipped. And could you imagine seeing an NHL coach standing on the coffee with on the bench with a Tim Hortons coffee? Right? It just doesn't, at that level, you just don't do it. And we just knew that the minute he did that even, right? So we knew that something was off with this guy. he only lasted a couple home games, and then the
investigation
Flint game,
happens.
Yeah.
Okay, second question, and if you don't want to answer this one, I'll go to a different one. But there was a comment on Facebook by a guy named Ryan Watt, and he said, "I want to hear about rhinoing guys outside Chicago."
Oh wow!
I don't even know. I can kind of see.
Yeah, kind of maybe having a few beverages and
Where's
bending
Chicago's?
over and running head first into someone's chest. Yeah, I was pretty good at that.
Where's Chicago's?
Yeah, overseas.
Overseas?
Waddy's from over there. Yeah,
He plays over in.
Him and both his play with him and his brother actually. Yeah, good one.
Okay, finally, I'm a diehard Oiler fan, so we'll end on this because this week the big news that broke was Bob Nicholson. You seen he's the president of the Oilers hockey ops, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen his quotes on Tobias Ryder?
Nope.
You haven't seen that?
Oh, I did. I heard about it, and
Here,
I only heard about it because someone told me the other day. Who was
so
that?
they had
Singled them out pretty good, right?
If you're not an Oilers fan, the Oilers are in the stinker. They got the best player in the world, but they're still stinking.
Right.
And so they had a meeting or a get-together, a luncheon, whatever you want to call it, with season ticket holders. So he is quoted as saying, Reeder will not be signed by the Oilers next season. Reeder was a player that other teams wanted. He came here for 1 year because he wanted to play with Draisaitl, who he played with on the German national team. He thought if he wasn't playing with Leon, he'd play with Connor. He'd score 15 to 16 goals, and instead of making $2 million, he'd sign a $4 million 4-year deal at $3.5 million. Reeder hasn't scored a goal. Reeder has missed so many breakaways. Reeder would have scored 10 or 12 goals. We'd probably be in the playoffs.
Ouch. Poor Reeder.
And then, of course, the news outlets get a hold of this. It goes like wildfire.
Right.
And then, well, now Nicholson's having to apologize. Rightfully so. I don't know why he would be caught saying that. Right? Like, The Oilers are a tire fire. You don't need to add fuel to it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Time and a place.
Absolutely. And Reeder, you're not going to sign him again. No, that's a pretty simple comment. But he goes, well, I haven't seen the video of it, right? I've just heard
basically blamed
their season on
one guy.
On one guy and not their star players, right?
Right. Yeah, that's not professional. Not good at all. Really. I mean, I don't see how that's gonna. How would that help a situation at all? I'm assuming he was probably just frustrated, fired up, and he probably left that building going, "What the hell did I just say?" You could say that 15 years ago and nobody would catch on, or just the 100 people in the fan forum would have heard it.
Yeah, but think of how many Snapchat, Twitter, I don't know, just the ability to, everybody's got a phone, right?
He didn't even walk out of that building before
it had blown up.
Yeah.
Not
smart.
No, but
not smart.
Oh well, the Oilers, they're always entertaining group. Well, I really appreciate you hopping on. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I'm happy we got the players and to hurt people at the end, because that's not too many people get to experience something like that.
No doubt. No, I thank you very much for having me. It's all my pleasure, and hopefully someday I'll be able to come back.
Sounds good. Thanks, Shank.
Right on, buddy.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. This coming week we have Larry Wintoniak in studio. He is currently the assistant coach of the Kindersley Clippers. He runs a gym in Kindersley and has quite the story coming from coaching all over the SJ, and whether it was Kindersley, LaRange. He's coached myself out in Dryden, Ontario. Back in the day, he was Thunder Bay coach. So we're going to chat to him a little bit about that. So look forward to next week and hope you guys tune in. Until then.